Vanaand, die eerste maand van 2019 loop nou vinnig ten einde. As dit jou eerste kennismaking met ons program is, baie welkom. Bly by ons, ek is Lenet Francis. Bietjie later gesels ons met 'n draaiboekskrywer oor die film wat hulle oor Distrik Ses wil maak. Suid-Afrika se buurland Zimbabwe het die afgelope tyd deurgeloop onder gewelddadige betogings, waarin minstens 12 mense dood is, terwyl talle gewond, beseer en gemartel is. Die protesoptrede het begin nadat die landse regering die petrolprys meer as verdubbel het. Dit het weer daartoe gelei dat alle ander pryse die hoogte ingeskiet het. Boonop is die land se internet afgeskakel met Zimbabweërs wat tot geen of min kontak met die buitewêreld gehad het. Zimbabwe se president Emmerson Mnangagwa was uitstedig toe die polisie en weermag die strate ingevaar het om betogers onder beheer te bring. Hy het egter maandag teruggekeer. Om te hoor wat die jongste is en die gebeure te ontleed, praat ons nou met Mjotsi Mutandiri van die Living Together Institute. En ons is ook telefonies in verbinding met Hopewell Chinono in Zimbabwe. Hy is 'n korrespondent vir die New York Times en ook die vervaardiger van dokumentêre rolprints. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. Let's go to you firstly, Hopewell. Has some form of calm been restored since Mnangagwa returned to Zimbabwe?
Yes, when the president came back from his Euro-Asia tour, it seems that things have calmed down, but there is a problem because people are being put through trials in the courts. The trials, people are not being given bail, the majority of them, and the lawyers are complaining that it seems that the magistrates have been given one instruction on how to handle everyone who has been caught up in the dragnet of the protests.
So has there always been underlying tensions, or has this been escalated since the announcement of the petrol hike?
The tensions were there. The doctors went on strike for close to 39 days in total, starting in December. And the protest was actually the culmination of the doctor strike. And also it's about the cost of living, which is getting high. And the salaries are not matching the cost of living. And the fuel was increased by almost 150%. So a lot of people, especially in the civil service and doctors, are saying that their salaries cannot match the cost of living.
Was this supposed to be expected, Mujaji?
It's not supposed to be expected, because one of the things that has happened, especially after the coup, which many people were willing to give Mnangagwa a goodwill, he has not been able to use that goodwill properly. Even as Wopo says, the situation is stabilized. We know that the crackdown on activists, both political and civic society activists, has not stopped. They are still hunting for a lot of people, including the crisis chairperson Rashid Mahia, who they are harassing his parents, his children, just to get to him. And a lot of activists have crossed the border into South Africa, into Zimbabwe, into Botswana and Zambia. And that tells you that the situation is not normal. And when people start to think that things have normalized and some people are being targets, they can disappear and people still think that it is normal. So one of the things that we need to understand here, which is problematic, is that the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa, with the goodwill they had, they have continued with the, what Mugabe has been doing. It's a government that is not accountable to anyone.
So are you saying that the optimism that we felt when he came into power was all a farce?
It's long gone. It's long gone. On the 1st of August, the military and the police kill 5-6 people. 6 months later, they do the same. They kill double what they've killed in August. And that tells you this is a government that is not willing to listen to people, that does not care about what happens. And the big question is, what must happen moving forward? Until the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa decides to say the people of Zimbabwe matter in what is happening, we have a serious problem. When the military and the police move around, raping people, killing people, beating people for no reason, just rounding up people and beating up people, that's a problem. But for me, fundamentally, the idea that you can use rape as a tool of violence in 2019 is disturbing. But more disturbing is the fact that there is no accountability. The people that have been doing this since 1980, Gukura Wund time, no police officer or military guy has been tried for killing people, for torture or anything. On August, the commission of President Mohlande recommended clearly that criminal proceedings must happen. And no one has been arrested. And like Hopo says, a few people gather, demonstrate, they are arrested the next day. They are sentenced to 5 days overnight, midnight justice. We think that it's unacceptable and the world must start to have a say on these things.
Let's just touch on the reference of rapes. In 'n onderhoud met Fokus vertel 'n Zimbabwese ma hoe haar minderjarige dogter 'n verlede week verkragt is nadat 'n groep mans haar huis binnegestorm het. 3 dae na die voorval het die dogter eers behandeling ontvang. Sy is glo gewaarsku deur mediese personeel om nie te sê dat sy verkragt is nie ter wille van haar eie veiligheid. Fokus regisseur Jolien Reed en Shumetembu het vroeër vandag met haar gesels.
Ma, tell us what happened to your daughter.
They came to my house. I wasn't there because they're staying alone. So they said they came, they knocked the door, but without the response of the kids, they break the door. They were armed. They were 7, and after that, the big one, the big daughter of myself, because I've got 2, they're staying alone. She jumped the window and she went somewhere. After that, that 15-year-old, she was raped. With the, I don't know, but she said she was only raped by one, but others, they were busy finding another one, but they couldn't find her. So that girl went and slept somewhere. She said she slept somewhere. After that, in the morning she came and she saw her sister. She was in blood. She was terrible hurt. And she said she was refusing and they beat her. But the one who beat her is the one who raped her.
Well, there's been discrepancies about how many people have really died in this violence. We've seen in the insert one woman relating how her daughter was raped. Give us a sense of what is actually happening, the true face of what's not being reported nationally.
I think in terms of numbers, the official number that has been put out is that 12 people died. But the problem with what is happening is that it's an overnight operation by the military. So you never actually know the exact numbers because it's something that is not legal. And the military itself keeps saying that it is not killing people. It refuses to accept that it is the one that is going into people's homes in townships, pulling them out, beating them up, and some even getting killed. They are saying that these are the actions of rogue soldiers who have stolen uniforms and guns, but it's quite laughable because there are helicopters involved, so one cannot say that rogue soldiers or retired soldiers stole helicopters. So in terms of the exact numbers, we're still to find out. But it's a number too big because in August, when the military killed protesters, I think 6 people died, but now the number is at 12, which means that nothing is really changing. Things are getting worse.
Net hierna praat ons 'n bietjie oor daardie beweringe wat gemaak word. We'll talk after the break about the denials and how to restore democracy when we come back. Net hierna praat ons verder. Moenie weggaan nie. Bly by ons. Welkom terug by Fokus. Ons praat oor die afgelope 2 weke se gebeure in Zimbabwe en ons gaste is Munjochi Mutandiri van the Living Together Institute en ons is ook telefonies in verbinding met Hopewell Chinono in Zimbabwe. Hy is 'n korrespondent vir die New York Times en ook die vervaardiger van dokumentêre rolprente. Just before the break, you touched on accountability. To what degree should SADC and South African leaders get involved in interventions, or should we just leave Zimbabwe and Mnangagwa to deal with the crisis at hand?
Certainly not, especially when the issue of human life is involved. The right to life, I think, has no sovereignty. It knows no boundary. And I think that it is a responsibility of the region, SADC in itself, And South Africa, especially President Ramaphosa, it is disturbing, especially from the remarks that he made a few days ago.
Sanctions that needs to be abolished.
For the sanctions, but overall the way he perceived the situation. He never said a word about the people that have been killed, and that's disturbing. Now we also hear that the South African government is negotiating a package, an economic package with Zimbabwe. We are not against that, but it must have conditions, clear conditions of reforms. What needs to be done in Zimbabwe? The Zimbabwean government must stop using the military to kill people. That should be a precondition. There is no way that the military should continue doing what they are doing. Secondly, the South African government must see exactly what's happening on the ground. And this call we're making to the South African government, but to the international media as well. So, SABC, get into Zimbabwe. Don't just hear stories. Get in and see how horrific the situation is on the ground. It's actually an understatement when we raise some of the things we are raising here. Hopo talked about 12 people having been killed. But 3 days ago, we know of a young man who was reported missing, who was later found in a mortuary at Parenyato. And that tells you the number is bigger, and because of the internet shutdown, we don't have the true story. But the culture of unaccountability by the Zimbabwean government is a hallmark of this whole crisis. And in that same realm, SADC must start to have Zimbabweans to come to the table. And the key thing is that the Zimbabwean government has issued a statement a few hours ago saying that if there have been any wrong things done by the military, you must report to the military or to the police. And that's not acceptable. South Africa has IPID. There must be an effective, independent mechanism of people reporting the wrongs of the military. And that provision is there in the Constitution of 2013. Why is it not implemented? Why should a victim report to the perpetrator to investigate the same situation? So we think that in terms of moving forward, SADC has to put pressure on the Zimbabwean government to accede to reforms, but more importantly, to say you cannot continue to spill blood because you want to stay in power. And thirdly, the Zimbabwean government must be forced to come to a table with Zimbabweans. So Mnangagwa globetrots, goes to Russia, and is not having discussions with Zimbabweans. The ordinary men, the ordinary Zimbabweans, who is the actual stockholder of the country, he doesn't want to talk to them. So if that does not happen, we cannot find a solution. If they give a package now, it's a short-term package. In 3 months, the man will be finished, and we are back to square one. The strikes are not going to stop. Just today, Apex has announced that they are going to be striking because they could not agree with the Zimbabwean government on salary increments. So the problems need a fundamental overhaul and look not at the symptoms, but at the foundation of the crisis.
So hopeful with all these prerequisites and there's no talk to Zimbabweans, what's needed on the ground right now, particularly in terms of reporting and particularly in terms of safety of Zimbabweans? What is the situation and what needs to happen in the way forward?
I think what needs to happen now is for the president and his government to take the issue of reforms that have been referred to by Mjo seriously, because he got a lot of goodwill from the rest of the world on the basis that he was promising to be different from Robert Mugabe. But from what we have seen so far, and from what the rest of the world has seen so far, he is no different from Robert Mugabe, and actually has gone further than what Robert Mugabe has done by putting soldiers in the streets and killing people. And there seems to be a disorganized, it's like a disorganized government, because the president says one thing and his lieutenants are doing something different. So reforms are fundamental. They have to be political reforms and economic reforms. Zimbabwe's problem is not economic. It is political, but it's manifesting itself through economics. So as long as we don't attend to the political reforms that are underpinned by the Zidera Act, which is a sanctions act imposed on Zimbabwe by the United States, it's a pathway that allows Zimbabwe to get back into the family of nations. The president agreed to sign up to. He actually signed up to it in April last year, but nothing has been done. Media reforms, they have not been done. The Herald newspaper, which is state-owned, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, they're pitting citizens against each other. So until those reforms are done, I don't see anything changing at the moment.
Hopewell, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Mnjozi, for coming in. We'll certainly keep our viewers updated, and thanks so much for giving us a true reflection of what's actually happening on the ground. We appreciate your time. Bly ingeskakel, net hierna praat ons met 'n draaiboekskrywer wat 'n rolprent wil maak oor Distrik Ses. Moenie weggaan nie, ons is nou terug. Produksie aan 'n kortfiksiefilm oor die gedwonge verskywings van die mense van Distrik Ses in die 60er jare begin binne maande. Dis nou as die nodige finansies bymekaar gemaak kan word. Die storie handel oor twee vriende wat kontak verloor weens die verskywings. Ons praat nou met die draaiboekskrywer en regisseur Anton Fischer. En baie dankie dat jy ingekom het op hierdie Sondag aan. Wat is jou verbintenis met Distrik Ses en hoekom is dit vir jou nodig om hierdie storie te vertel?
Ek het familie gehad wat in Distrik Ses gewoon het. They were living in Mackenzie Street in Distrik Ses. In fact, it was an uncle of mine. He was my godfather. The surname was February. And we used to visit them. My mother took us to visit them. Ons het hulle besoek gereeld. Maar hulle is ook toe, verskuif. So there is a personal connection to Distrik Ses, and that's what drew me to it. As well, of course, Distrik Ses is a very powerful symbol. You know, symbols can be very powerful, and Distrik Ses for me remains to this day a very powerful symbol of a gross injustice that was committed. You know, and therefore I think it was necessary for me to find a different way of telling the story.
Ek wil juist vir jou vra, hoe vertel jy met al die geskiedenis en al die boeke wat al reeds geskryf is, hoe vertel jy 'n eie soortige unieke storie wat teen die agtergrond van Distrik Ses afspeel?
Kijk, ik het eerst begin as 'n kort verhaal. Maar toe besef ek nie, maar daar's te veel elemente en te veel temas wat 'n mens oor kan skryf, jy weet. So I wrote a full-length feature film. So there is actually a full-length feature film that has been completely written of about 110 minutes, 110 pages. Maar toe om befondsing te kry vir die fliek, moes ek nou eers begin met 'n kort fliek. And the short fiction film would be the first ever fiction film about Distrik Ses. The same applies to the full-length feature film. We've had many documentaries. Ons het, jy weet, daar was die musiekblyspel en so aan, the musical. Maar daar was nog nooit 'n fiksiefilm oor Distrik Ses nie. En die kortfilm en die langfilm sal dan nou die eerste keer wees dat daar so iets gedoen word, jy weet.
Is dit maar 'n algemene probleem as 'n mens so kreatiewe werk op die planke wil bring, dat jy mens maar sukkel met befondsing? What did you do?
Kyk, 'n mens moet maar bid en bedel.
Bid en louf.
Ja, jy moet maar bid en bedel, jy weet, vir elke sent. We are busy running a crowdfunding campaign on various platforms, Facebook and so on. And hopefully people will respond to our crowdfunding campaign. Ons het nou wel geld gekry van National Film and Video Foundation, R150,000, maar R150,000 is ook maar baie min, jy weet, as jy mens nou 'n film wil maak. So we are appealing to people to donate to our project. As I said, it would be the first ever fiction film based on the events of Distrik Ses. En vir my is dit nogal 'n belangrike projek, want mense voel nog steeds die pyn, die trauma, jy weet. And the creative concept that I used for the film actually comes from a postman. Dis hoekom die naam Letters to Distrik Ses byvoorbeeld, jy weet. The concept came from a postman. As deel van my navorsing het ek met hierdie postbode gepraat. Hy was oud inwoner van Distrik Ses. And he was telling me, you know, the trauma that he had, apart from losing, being kicked out of Distrik Ses, is that every day he would have to go and stand in front of homes or houses, and there was no one there to deliver the letters to. So die man staan daar met 'n sak vol briewe, wat hy nie kan aflewer nie. Verstaan? And for me that was the creative breakthrough, the creative concept.
But the emotional connection as well.
Yeah, and that's the basis on which I wrote the story about a postman suffering this trauma of not being able to deliver letters to friends, to families, to neighbors that he grew up with, you know. En dis vir my dit was vir my die inspirasie, die kreatiewe inspirasie vir die fliek, jy weet.
So, hoe gaan dit met hierdie veldtog om geld in te samel? Want dis duidelike storie wat vertel moet word.
Wel, soos ek sê, mense sukkel. in hierdie bedryf sukkel mense.
Inwoners het van oud inwoners en familielede van oud inwoners van Distrik Ses, sekerlik sou hulle 'n bydrae wou lewer. Dit is almoes like 'n belegging in 'n storie wat vertel moet word.
Ja, kyk, dis nog vroeg. Ons het net 'n paar omtrent 'n week gelede begin met die veldtog. So hopelik sal dit 'n bietjie nou, jy weet, hopefully it will catch on and people will start contributing. There have been contributions coming in, jy weet, but hopefully we will get there eventually. We have set a target of 300,000 rand. We are looking at other funding options as well, but for now nothing is guaranteed, you see.
Yeah.
Except for 150,000 rand from the National Film and Video Foundation, which is really nothing, you know.
So Anton, ten wanneer wil julle nou klaar geskied wees en in produksie wees? En die uniekheid van hierdie produksie is dat almal wat gaan bydra, gaan julle erkenning gee. Miskien net vir mense dit vir hulle uitstippel.
Yeah, all the donations and every single person that donates to the movie will be named in the credits of the film. So at the end of the film, you will see your name on screen, and hopefully that would, you know, give some people some sort of encouragement. But also, Lynette, it's important for me to mention that from a governance and credibility point of view, all donors will have access to the financial records, audited financial statements of this project. In fact, we've got two lawyers, well-known lawyers, Willie Hofmeyer from the NPA, and we've got another lawyer, Ibi Muhammad, who's a former resident of Distrik Ses, actually, monitoring this fundraising campaign. So we're trying to reassure people that we're not going to run away with their money, that the money will be used for the purpose for which it is being donated.
En jy het nie slapelose nagte dat hierdie ding nie gaan enkry nie?
Nee. Kijk, ons gaan hierdie fliek maak en dit gaan einde van die jaar, teen die einde van die jaar of vroeg volgende jaar gaan hierdie fliek klaar wees, ja.
En is dit in hierdie stadium nou wat julle al weet wie watter rolle gaan vertolk, of is dit nou met tyd, as ons eers genoeg geld het, dan sal ons daai perd op?
Presies, ons het nog nie genoeg geld eers om vir audisies nie, jy weet. So as die geld nou inkom en geldjies nou inkom, dan kan ons met daardie prosesse begin.
En wat motiveer jy om aan te hou daarmee en waarom is dit so belangrik om regtig daardie storie te vertel?
Wel, dis persoonlik en ook professioneel, want ek wil persoonlik is daar die konneksie met Distrik Ses, maar ek wil ook professioneel 'n bietjie meer in die filmbedryf bedrywe wees, jy weet.
So ons hoop nou hierdie is jou groot breek, dat jy jou briewe gepos kry oor Distrik Ses. Baie dankie dat jy ingekom het.
Dankie,
Ons waardeer dit.
Dankie, Lynette.
Dis ongelukkig al vir vanaand. Onthou jou afspraak volgende Sondag aand om 6 net hier op SABC 2. Ons lees graag jou kommentaar. Stuur dit en jou tweets en jou voorstelle aan Fokus by sabc.co.za. Besoek ook ons Fokus blad op Facebook. Soek onder by Fokus SABC en volg ons ook op Twitter by Fokus ZA. Ons hoop dis 'n heerlike week. Ons sien uit na jou kommentare tot volgende Sondag aand. Mooi bly. Totsiens.